I'm Richard Gerhart.
I'm Elizabeth Gerhart.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show, where we're all about small businesses, entrepreneurs, and the intellectual property that helps them flourish.
And Passage to Profit is sponsored by this guy, Gerhart Law, which is a full-service intellectual property firm, patents, trademarks, copyrights, litigation, and he loves to help people with their intellectual property problems.
Yes, we absolutely do. And thank you for that unbiased endorsement. I really appreciate it. So
Someone had to say it.
a super great show today. I'm so excited. We have Misty Wrigley Miller, who is going to be our guest. She's a fantastic guest, has incredible experience, and has done lots of interesting and wonderful things. And then also on our slate of guests today is Jack Killian. Jack is also the master networker. He's a great guy and can do lots of things to help entrepreneurs succeed.
Absolutely. And he has a new venture to do just that. And then after them, Kenya's going to give her Power Move segment. I'll talk a little bit about my startup Fireside. And then we have two awesome presenters. So Sarah, I wish you'd been around when my kids were little. Sarah has got this amazing app to help your kids get transportation. And I'm not going to say anymore. I'm going to let her talk about it. But anybody that deals with kids or grandkids, you want to stick around and hear this. And then if you are a small business owner, even if you're just on Etsy, although Etsy's getting pretty big now, Lee can save you tons of money on your shipping and save your customers money. So like I know when I go to buy something, I don't want to pay a big shipping fee. So stick around and listen to how you could save money with Lee if you're mailing anything at all.
Yeah, and we're getting closer to a perfect world, aren't we?
Are we?
Well, with free shipping.
Oh, yeah, low cost and free. Well, really, I mean, these big carriers get these huge discounts, and small carriers haven't been able to get them, and now they can through me.
Yeah, and why shouldn't they?
Well, they should. So
let's go on to IP in the news.
Oh, gosh. I'm going to hold this up, but we'll also splice it in. Listeners, go to our social media, Passage to Profit Show, and look at this because I think it's hilarious, but it's something pretty cool. I'm holding this in front of my face. It is a dog wearing a watch. So in 1991, a patent was issued, patent 5,023,850 for animal time watches. So basically what this does is it's a watch that gives you the time passing in dog time or any other animal.
So, right. So 1 year of human time is equal to 7 years of dog time. Right. That's the metric.
Except for the year 2020, which is equal to about 1 million years of any time. Will it ever end?
Hopefully soon. But so if you want to get a watch for your dog and they can keep time in dog years and so since it runs more quickly for dogs, if for example, if you're watching a TV show with your dog and it's an hour long, it's really 7 hours long to your dog. So keep those things in mind when you're, when you're dealing with your pets.
I actually think this is pretty cool, though. But the patent is very technical with all these like electronics and everything. But it has a picture of a dog wearing a watch and looking at it. So that'll be on our social media.
Yeah, that picture sort of looks like Winston Churchill.
Okay, so on to the copyright. This is really interesting.
Yeah, so I bet you didn't know you could copyright an oomph.
A sound,
right? So, of course, people find this is America. People find all sorts of ways to sue each other. It turns out that a gamer created a particular oomph sound whenever the character in the game was killed. So, and it became very distinctive, and other gamer companies started copying the software sound of that oomph. So naturally, this was something that they had to go to court over. And it turned out that they were able to settle the case, and the winning party received a license, I guess, for every time the word oomph is used in connection with the death of a video game character. So just be alert out there. There may be things that you're saying or doing right now that are worth a lot of money and you don't even know.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I'd have known how to tape some of those sounds I made during childbirth. Anyway, so let's introduce Misty.
So absolutely. So super delighted to have Misty here. Misty Wrigley Miller is a lifelong horsewoman, and she's not only an award-winning broadcast journalist, but also one of the few women in the world to compete with a team of horses in the sport of combined driving. More on that in a little bit, I'm sure. Amongst her many equestrian achievements, she is, and her American saddlebred, HS Baby Steps, won an incredible 4 championships. And so she's also the owner of the Wrigley Media Group. So welcome very much, Misty. You're kind of at both ends of the spectrum there, right? You're a champion equestrian and you're also in the media business. How did you figure out that you were going to go in these 2 directions?
It was the way I was raised, because from my mother's side, I got gum, baseball, and Arabian horses. And from my stepfather's side, I got television, news, and Walter Cronkite. So I had both of these great elements in my life growing up.
So, right, if you've ever been to Chicago, if you've ever been to Wrigley Field, well, that's who she's talking about. That was her grandfather that did that. And also the Wrigley Gum fortune. So Misty grew up with entrepreneurs, with people that were involved in their communities, and she's giving back now. She's keeping the family tradition going, which I think is awesome.
It's very important for me.
You're obviously a successful entrepreneur and you have a media group. So what exactly does your media group do?
We produce all sorts of content, long format, short format, over several different platforms. I like to say that we're problem solvers, and whatever the client needs, whether it be a training video for a Toyota, or when Drew Barrymore needed a scene in her new movie of a small Kentucky home, that we provide solutions. And we have an amazing array of talented, we call ourselves media mavericks, because we kind of burst through all the boundaries in order to solve our clients' problems.
So who is a typical client? Do you work with any small businesses, or are they typically people that are in the upper range?
We work with people in all business ranges. We do work for nonprofit groups, which was especially important during the COVID months, which we're still in and beginning to see an uptick, all the way to large networks. We're currently working on a couple of projects for HGTV.
Oh, wow. That's
so
cool.
What is the biggest struggle that these entrepreneurs have when it comes to this kind of media exposure and content?
I think it's getting their message, the correct message, through to the correct audience. And that's what we really try and help our clients develop, because they'll come to us maybe, just not really knowing what they want their message to be. So we really take a lot of pride in working with our clients very closely and crafting that message and make sure that it gets out on the correct media platforms.
How does the process of deciding that work?
Normally, the client will meet with a person on our creative team, and they just work through that message. A recent example was a friend of ours owns a distillery, and they wanted to get the message out that they were pivoting from producing bourbon to producing hand sanitizer, which was a great thing to do for the community, and they wanted to get their message out. Wow. So we went in and following all the COVID protocols, and I'm really grateful to all of our producers who went out in the community, properly masked and sanitized. And we had T-shirts made, lights, camera, sanitize. but to work with that company to say, hey, these are really tough times, and we're pivoting our business to let people know that we're now producing hand sanitizer. So we did a great video and put it up on their social media, and it sort of went viral.
I didn't know that hand sanitizer and distilleries were closely related. So I guess next
Well,
time.
hand sanitizer is made of alcohol a lot of times. So.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
But I mean, people, I mean, it's great that so many people repurposed
yeah,
to try to supply Americans with what they needed to be healthy and safe.
yeah.
And it's great that you could get the word out, right?
And don't drink your hand sanitizer.
Yeah, but you brought up that it went viral on social media. So I'm just interested, what platform of social media was it? Instagram? Was it Facebook? And do you know why it went viral, or was there anything you did that helped it go viral?
I think we put it on the Facebook platform and on their social media, and I'm not sure if it eventually made it to YouTube. Sorry, I don't have that, but I think that what helped it go viral was not only the message, which was great. Hey, sorry, your bourbon's on hold, but right now hand sanitizer is more important. But how they did it, why they did it, and I like to think that our shooters created such compelling video images. That's in a very short amount of time. We call it snackable content, which I'm from an age, I used to think snackable content was a bag of Cheetos. But
right. I've never heard snackable content before.
Snackable content is, what's so popular on social platforms now, that you just have such a short amount of time to deliver, to number one, catch the viewer's attention and get that message across. And because I've got some brilliant younger people working for me, they get that. They understand how to get that message, grabbed and understood and get a reaction.
So what would be some must-have platforms that content creators should absolutely have as part of their content strategy today, you would say?
Absolutely. The Facebook, YouTube, and a very strong, their own private, strong web presence on their own website. And we do a lot of work with people developing their website and that distribution, getting it out to their audience.
You've been in the media world, but you've also been in the equestrian world too. And so you're a champion in the sport of combined driving. So I guess I never really think of horses and driving in the same sentence, but I guess it's a pretty interesting sport, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It's a very challenging sport. It's a 3-day event and in 3 different phases. So it takes a lot of courage and stamina to get through the 3 days of competition. But one of the things I really, really enjoy about it is that in equestrian sport, men and women compete equally. We're not divided into groups, and amateurs and professionals compete against each other. So it really is, just true sportsmanship at its most basic level, true horsemanship at its basic level. And I think because I was raised in equestrian sport, I never really gave much thought to, as a woman, I can do this or I can't do this. And when I found myself, I'm one of 6 women who compete internationally in the sport of 4-in-hand driving. And people say, don't you find that odd? And I don't, because no one ever told me that I couldn't.
So why do you think there's not as many women participating in the sport?
I think because there's a sort of an image that, okay, they're 4 strong horses and women aren't strong enough. They don't have the stamina. And, they certainly can't keep it up, that level of competition for over 3 days. And we absolutely can. And I'm not even a young woman, but it's the proper training. It's your mental fitness, it's your physical fitness, it's your relationship with your animals, it's the becoming the first woman to win a gold medal in that sport. I think is, I hopefully I've set an example for other women, saying not only can you compete, but you can compete at the top of your game.
Thing is horses drawing a cart, right? And it can be 2, 3, or 4 horses drawing a cart, and you have to control all those horses from the cart. Is that right?
Yes, I drive 4 horses put to a carriage.
And are these special carriages? Does everybody, have the same carriage? Is there like a standard, or is part of the event different carriages that are decorated or ornate?
Yeah, well, we use 2 different types of carriages for the different events. One carriage is very old fashioned, and it looks like something you'd see in Downton Abbey or something like that. But it's very, very technical. And then our marathon carriage that we do the cross country, we have to navigate obstacles over about 23 kilometers, is very high tech. And believe me, while they may all look the same, it's sort of an engineering feat to figure out how you can make your carriage a little faster, turn a little faster. And I mean, we've got delayed steering and front and rear disc brakes, and it's all kinds of gadgets on these things.
Sort of like Formula One for horses.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how fast can you get one of those things to go?
Exactly.
How fast can you go?
Sometimes a little too fast. Probably the optimum speed is between 16 and 18 kph, which is probably about 14 to 16 miles per hour. That's optimal.
Do the horses ever fight with each other? Like, do they get mad and one want to go fast and one want to go slow? I mean, controlling 4 horses at once seems like a lot.
No, Elizabeth, yeah, they do. Absolutely. They have all, to get 4 horses to work together. And if they don't, they will start fighting.
Wow. You're a brave
Maybe
woman.
gonna
That's
say.
all I have to say. Yeah. So,
Misty, what breed horses do you use?
I drive Dutch horses, Gelderlanders.
Misty, you had made a really interesting point about mental fitness when you were talking about, women and why there may be a lack of women riders in the sport. And so recently I rode a horse for the first time during COVID. I won't tell you how old I am, but I had never ridden a horse ever in my life. And I always had fear of them. And for me, I was going through a lot emotionally during COVID. And I thought it would be a very good therapeutic thing to do to try to get over some fears and some anxiety. And I have to tell you, it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. It was a wonderful experience. And I just wanted you to talk a little bit more about maybe some things that people can do as far as maybe horseback riding or using it as a form of therapy to kind of get over some of those anxieties and some of those challenges, even in business and life.
There's a very great saying attributed to Winston Churchill that goes, the best thing for the inside of a man or a woman is the outside of a horse. And for me personally, that's, whenever I have a problem to solve or I just need to get away, as you did during COVID, it's like I need to go to the barn. I just need to unattach myself from everything and connect with this incredible animal. And you sort of work that out. And that has been proven true with the incredible success of hippotherapy with children with autism and veterans with PTSD. That therapeutic work with horses has had phenomenal results. And I'm so glad that more and more research is being done on that, and therapeutic riding programs are growing across the country. So the therapeutic value of horses, both mentally and physically, has been proven. They're amazing creatures.
you've been so successful. What do you think you could tell people who are trying to run a successful business or start one?
Again, I will lean on one of my favorite expressions, and I'll give this one to Audrey Hepburn. And it's whether you think you can or you think you cannot, you are correct.
I love that. That is excellent. Great. So we've come to the end of this wonderful segment, but we have lots more to go. If anyone's just tuning in, our podcast is out tomorrow, Passage to Profit Show on iHeart. And we also have our social media, which is on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And you can see what we're talking about with the different graphics that we're going to intersperse through the show.
Check out the dog with the watch.
Yeah, check out
He looks like Winston Churchill.
so we'll be right back. You're listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show on WOR 710, the voice of New York.
Welcome back, everybody. Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. And we just had a really wonderful segment with Misty Wrigley Miller, equestrian and entrepreneur. Thank you so much, Misty. It was just really great hearing from you, and we loved your advice. And for our next guest, we have Mr. Jack Killian, master networker. He's the founder of Street Smart Entrepreneurs and the Jack Killian Group, and has been an entrepreneur, get this, for over 45 years.
Still going strong.
You'd think he'd be tired of it by now, but he's not. And he's grown multiple diverse businesses and strategic businesses, and he's provided guidance to hundreds of entrepreneurs. A good friend of ours. Welcome, Jack. Good to see you.
And also a veteran.
And also a veteran.
Today is Veterans Day. We're taping this on Veterans Day.
Yes, November 11th.
2020.
2020. So
thank you, Jack, for your service to our country.
Good. I would describe myself as a veteran.
And thank you to all veterans and all service people. So,
yes, I agree.
I'm done.
All right. So, Mr. Veteran, tell us about what you're up to lately and the types of things that entrepreneurs need help with.
Over the last 45 years, I've started 9 different companies, all of which made it to varying extents. And then I also purchased a financially messed up family-owned manufacturing company that I turned around and ran that for 13 years. And all those experiences led me to start my latest new venture, which is called Street Smart Entrepreneurs. And when I look at COVID-19, I see all the terrible things that it's creating, but I think it's also going to create some major positive developments globally. And I think for sure it's going to boost entrepreneurship globally. And I want to be part of that movement. I want to make my contributions into the entrepreneurial space. So I started Street Smart Entrepreneurs about 5 or 6 months ago. And what we're currently doing is developing online and in-person courses for entrepreneurs, events for entrepreneurs. We're doing some strategic consulting, both with entrepreneurs and with larger companies. Down the road, I can envision even creating one or more incubators for entrepreneurs, and possibly even an investment fund to invest in some of the opportunities that we come across. You know, I'm in the process of writing a book that summarizes the things I've learned with all these various ventures. And the working title of that book is called Been There, Done That, because I literally think that I've been there and I've done that. And I've both for my own ventures and for other entrepreneurs that I've worked with, I've raised money for deals. I've bought companies, sold companies, merged companies, closed companies that belong to other entrepreneurs. I've started new ventures in venture capital. That was my first 5-year new venture. That morphed into starting a magazine. We started the first country music magazine in America. And Misty, you might be interested. We teamed up with the Minneapolis Star and Tribune Company. They became the investor in that new deal. And they hired our 3-man partnership to go in and try to turn around Harper's and helped them sell it at the time. So I was involved in running Harper's. That was following my dad dropped dead. I had to jump in and start running his company the day after he passed away. And when I got there, it had $23 in the bank, owed about $2 million, most of it personally guaranteed. So I had to take a company from that state, and I ran it for 13 years. I never raised a dime of outside money. And I eventually sold it to a public British company, went on their board, and we did 10 high-tech acquisitions in 3 years, and then sold that company. Then I morphed into helping an ex-McKinsey friend of mine start a magazine in the wireless and mobile communication space. I stayed with that for about 5 years until we sold it. And that morphed into me starting a technology-focused hedge fund, which I was with for 3 years. I was one of the co-founders. And I evolved that into starting a fund of funds that I ran for 18 years. And I closed that at the end of 18 when I ran into some health issues. And I just didn't feel comfortable managing money for other people while I was dealing with health issues of my own. Then I spent 5 years consulting and teaching people how to network and build alliances. So the first book I wrote was about networking. It's called Network All the Time, Everywhere with Everybody. So I've coached clients in places like Deloitte, JP Morgan Chase, Colgate Palmolive, maybe a dozen universities. And if I had a couple of key things to offer as advice to other entrepreneurs, it would certainly be to learn how to network and build relationships and create strategic alliances, because that's where you're going to learn. That's where you're going to get new ideas. That's how you're going to be able to leverage scarce resources that every entrepreneur deals with. So, I literally feel like I've been around the horn. I've lived and worked in France and in England, and I've taken some of these ventures globally pretty successfully. So, I'm always available to help other entrepreneurs either think through how to start a business or how to turn around or fix a broken company or grow an emerging, apparently successful company. When I talk to entrepreneurs, I tell them there are like 7 or 8 key factors for what I think are determining success. One of them is the entrepreneur's personal characteristics. Some people have the inherent characteristics and some people don't. The new business idea has to be valid, and the business model has to be really sound and well thought through. And in most of the deals I've looked at, I probably looked at 1,000 deals in my life. I have found very few where the idea was really compelling. You have to be able to fund your new idea. And too many entrepreneurs think only in terms of selling equity or maybe taking on some debt. I think there's a lot more creative, strategic ways to raise funding for deals. You have to be able to really identify your audience and have a cost-effective way of reaching your audience. And one of the issues that I'm wrestling with right now for street smart entrepreneurs is how do we really find the entrepreneurs that are going to be motivated to improve their abilities to grow a successful company. Entrepreneurs need to have a competitive edge. And I see a lot of deals in the marketplace where they don't really have a strong, sharp competitive edge. And one thing I always talk to entrepreneurs about is you better be prepared to be your company's best salesman, because that's a key component of being successful, starting and growing new ventures. The top person always has to be capable of being an exceptional salesperson. You can't simply outsource that. And then, as I said, you got to be really strong at networking and developing strategic alliances. And I think COVID has made that even easier by spurring the use of Zoom, so we can create alliances around the world. And I'm certainly doing that for street smart entrepreneurs. I think you start with having a passion and a vision for being prepared to step off the ledge. The early part of my career was pretty traditional. I went to really great colleges. I went to Yale, MIT, and Harvard. Then I had a very good job in England with a British tech company. Then I came back to the States and I was with McKinsey, which is certainly a good place to be. But it wasn't what I really felt in my heart I wanted to do. So at the time, one of the partners at McKinsey started talking about nominating me as a partner. That made me sort of think about what I want to do. And that same night, I was working late and I called my wife up and I said, I just made 2 decisions. And she said, what are they? I said, we're going to buy a racehorse. And she said, when are we going to do that? I said, God only knows, because we don't have any money. So we'll have to find an inexpensive racehorse. And she said, what else did you decide? I said, I'm going to quit my job. And she said, what are you going to do then? I said, tomorrow. And she said, why? And I explained why. I said, I just don't want to, lead the partners at McKinsey down a path that I'm really going to be interested in being a partner. So if I'm not going to do that, I might as well try to find what I want to do. I have a passion for small businesses. I've written my thesis at MIT about working with small companies. So I said, I'm going to leave and try to start a company to work with other entrepreneurs to raise funding for their deals. And it took me about 3 or 4 months to exit McKinsey, but that's what I did. And when I left, I had no partners, no real money, no business cards, no office, no experience doing what I wanted to do, and no network of people to work with. So I was really starting cold turkey. But that's where I really started to learn the importance of meeting people, building alliances, looking for ways to give back to people. And that's really where I got my PhD in entrepreneurship, looking at 1,000 deals, 98% of them, which were not very interesting. The most interesting one that we got involved in was helping launch Rolling Stone magazine. So we saw that as a pretty compelling business case. I had consulted with Columbia Records and Clive Davis, so I had a little bit of background. My partner was from Texas and is a country music fan, so we decided to go raise money to start Country Music Magazine. And that publication ran for over 30 years.
Wow.
So I think you have to have a passion, and you have to be, and the key thing is you have to have support at home. You can't be out trying to be an entrepreneur when you're struggling to have that kind of support at home, because it's high risk, often low reward, frequent, a lot of tension. It takes a major commitment that impacts the family. And I think too, one thing entrepreneurs need to pay attention to is their own personal fitness and health if they try to do this, because you can't do these entrepreneurial things in a half-hearted way, and it really creates a drain on you physically and emotionally, and you have to be prepared to deal with that.
Wow.
So every venture I've started, I've had a passion or a real interest in that area. I went to the racetrack as a kid with my dad and developed an interest in horse racing. And back in the early days when I decided to get into that business, there was no one in the country more passionate about horse racing than me. And it wasn't the gambling aspect of it. It was the competitiveness, the pageantry, and the horses themselves. And, I used to get up every morning for 20 years at 4 o'clock so I could be at the racetrack by 6 and back in my office in New York by 9. And I loved every minute of it.
What are some mistakes that entrepreneurs make when starting off in business, would you say?
There's a lot of them. One of which is thinking an idea for a product is the same as an idea for a company. I've had a lot of people approach me with a product that might be viable, but it's certainly not the basis for starting a company. I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs start a business and be reluctant or unwilling to be the upfront salesperson. I've seen a lot of new ventures where maybe the business idea was okay, but the business model itself was not right. And I've been into some turnaround situations, my dad's company and a company I ran for this British tech company, where they had a good business idea, but the way they were doing it wasn't right. And once we changed the business model, things really began to grow. And I think now you have to be thinking globally, and you have to be thinking about providing great customer service. I think customer service too often is underestimated by entrepreneurs, and it can be a real source of competitive strength. So I see a lot of things.
So Jack, we're coming to the end of the segment now, and we really enjoyed listening to you and your story and the nuggets of wisdom. I can see why you would title your book "Been There, Done That," because you have been there and you have done that.
Right.
And it's always a great pleasure to meet with you and to speak with you. And thank you very much. And
Thanks for the opportunity. It's great.
we'll be back right after this commercial announcement. This is Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gerhardt. Welcome, everybody. You're listening to Passage to Profit on WOR Radio. This is Richard and Elizabeth Gerhardt. And today we have with us Miss Dee Wrigley Miller and, of course, Jack Killian, entrepreneur extraordinaire. Next up is Power Move. And so for that, we turn things over to our co-host, Kenya Gibson.
I appreciate that, Richard. Thank you so much to you and Elizabeth. I'm really enjoying the conversation today with Misty and Jack. You know, Misty was talking just about, you know, creating content and making it good and making it engaging. And Jack was talking a little bit about his experience with Clive Davis in the music industry. So I think the young lady who we're going to talk about and highlight on Power Move today is a super good fit. Her name is Goldie Harris, and she is a young creator in the event space. She was actually given her first budget of $120,000 to create an event in college. And that doesn't sound like maybe a whole lot of money, but when you're in college and you're responsible for, you know, taking $120,000 and creating a music experience for students, that's quite a feat. And she did super well with that. And that led to her being able to create events in the music space with people like Action Bronson and ASAP Ferg. But one of the things that she started to experience as a creator was discrimination with some of the venues that she would try to work with. So depending on what artist she would be trying to create these experiences with, she would get a lot of pushback. There would be a lot of opposition. So she decided to create her own event and content platform called 24 Hours. So it's 24 and it's OURS. And it's a event platform and content platform dedicated to the urban music space. So she is using that to give artists a platform to creating events for, you know, people who are music enthusiasts to come and engage. And she is making super power moves with really creating an opportunity, not just for herself, but opening up the door for other people to have a space to create and collaborate. So today's power move goes to Goldie Harris.
Well, that's excellent.
Yeah, very exciting. And where can we find where can we find more about her platform at?
Yes, you can go to 24 Hours. So it's OURS.com. And there's everything about the platform there. Her story is there. And she's doing a lot of amazing things as a creator in the content space.
Does she have any events coming up, or are they done pretty regularly, or anything new on the horizon?
I know I'd have to check it out. I didn't look into that, but I'm sure she does. Everything's happening virtually now. So I'm sure she has something cooking up.
So, and Fireside is next.
Yay. So for those of you who haven't heard me explain this before, well, I'll give my 10-second pitch. Do you want to be part of history, but also a part of the future too? So join me on the first ever small business video directory. Fireside is a small business video directory. I interview people and I put them on my YouTube channel and on my website, and I will start promoting it soon. And I've been building. So actually Jack and Kenya and Lee have all shot videos with me. And I enjoy doing the videos, but I see things are changing. People are getting so much more comfortable on video than when I started this a year ago. And so I've almost got 100 people. And so I can really start promoting the site. So to start, one of the things I've done to promote the site, besides talking about it on Passage to Profit and social media of my own and Passage to Profit, is I started an Instagram channel about cats. So everybody loves animals, right? So Jack, you're saying, how do you get the word out? Well, I'm going to be using the cat channel to promote Fireside People. And I've been accumulating followers. And also for the videos I do, to Misty's point, I think this was so important. And you said it, we kind of glossed over. I tell people in their videos, you have 10 seconds to capture people's interest. So if you're doing something different with your business, I want to hear in the first 10 seconds what you're doing, because basically that's what you got these days, right? So I interview people myself. I have another gal interviewing people. I have a videographer who reached out to me to do interviews for me. I have another videographer I've talked about maybe putting some of his business videos. So I see this moving beyond me doing the videos to being more of a tech project where I just manage the placement of the videos on the site. And the revenue stream I had worked out one way, but after talking to people, I may change it. It's all free right now because I'm building it. I can't really give a lot of value to people, but that's where we're at.
Well, that sounds great. And so
And your social channel is Cats Who Wear Hats. I followed you the other day.
Yeah, cats who wear hats. And we interviewed our cat Checkers, who has been on this show, by the way. And Richard is the voice of Checkers. And
I was hoping you wouldn't tell people that.
we have a 38-second interview of Checkers on our Instagram channel. I'm interviewing her, and she was not very nice to me. She is a sweet cat, but
And she has a mind of her own, and I'm just.
so with that, let's move on.
All right.
So I am really delighted. You know, we talked to people on this show, and I was like, where were you when my kids were little? And really, if you have children that you need to get moved around from place to place with a trustworthy person, Sarah Scher has the app for you. So I'm not going to say anything more about it. Sarah, tell us what you're doing. You have a couple minutes to talk, and then we'll ask questions.
Absolutely. And thanks so much for having me. It's been amazing hearing the other contributors as well. I think I have a lot in common, from consulting to cats to horses, with all of you. But in this case, yes, I'm the founder and CEO of Kango, which is Safe Rides and Care for Kids. It's actually the third startup that I've worked at, but the first that I've co-founded. And the way that came about was actually at the previous startup, Snapfish.com, which was acquired by HP. It was the dawn of digital photography, when digital cameras were a new thing and smartphones didn't even exist yet. I was running a global product management team across 22 countries and a bunch of different time zones. And I had become a mom along the way, and I had 2 preschoolers. And for the life of me, I could not figure out how to manage their schedules now that they needed to go outside the home to preschool and back, on a daily basis. My husband worked over an hour away down the peninsula. I'm in San Francisco. It was terrible traffic, and all existing childcare solutions that I tried just were not built for transportation. So I ended up leaving Snapfish after building it into what was a really exciting multinational online photo and video company, and took the plunge. I stepped off the ledge and co-founded Kango with one of the former lead engineers that I worked with in product management at Snapfish. And so it was the dawn of smartphones at the time. We didn't exactly know what the product and the company would be, but I just had this incredible pain in my life that everyone seemed to share as a parent. How do you get your kids safely where they need to go in a way that is trustworthy, trackable, where the vetting, which is a key part, is taken care of for you? And really, the concept of it takes a village, which is still true, but with a smartphone now, is there a way to put that in your pocket, so that you can take that with you and have that? So we first had a number of sort of trial and error moments. We built, being product and engineering, we built smartphone apps to at first allow parents to connect with each other and trade rides or carpool together. But pretty quickly it became apparent from all the customer feedback that Yes, this was a universal challenge. Yes, indeed, there was no good solution for this. And that, while smartphones were cool, this was really not just voice, text, and data. This was about kids, and you needed people. But what that came down to was parents kept asking us, well, I don't have anyone I can carpool with, or my carpool fell apart. Do you have drivers that you can supply? Have you done the vetting? I don't have an idea as a parent, how to get someone fingerprinted and background checked and get their vehicle inspected. And what about insurance? And so that's really where we saw the value that people were willing to pay for, and that was going to be a viable solution for the huge challenge that was really kind of jeopardizing women's careers, putting marriages under tension, keeping kids from going to activities. And in my own, early childhood, I can remember being taken, from age 4 onward, to horseback riding, which was my sport actually. And so it really was a huge problem that I was deeply passionate about solving. So we could go into more detail, but our first round of funding came from an accelerator, 500 startups up here in the Bay Area. We pivoted into what became, a ride-sharing company. So we are a ride-sharing company, but we are also a licensed childcare provider. And so all of our drivers have childcare experience. Yes, it has the convenience of an Uber. Sometimes we've been called Uber for kids, but it really is more childcare on wheels. So you can download Kango from the App Store on iPhone or Android. You can book childcare, you can book rides, you can do it on demand, or you can schedule a regular driver. We pride ourselves on having a very personal touch. And also being licensed and insured to transport kids of any age, from babies needing car seats, which we supply, to high schoolers who maybe have a dance that they need to safely get home from at night. And so that's what we provide now up and down the state of California, from San Francisco down to San Diego, and also in Arizona. So delighted to answer.
That sounds fantastic. Can we ask a few questions?
Certainly.
Yeah, well, I'm just curious, is it the same driver for the family every time, or is there switching off between drivers? Because I would think that if you're carrying kids, it's better if they have some consistency.
Yes, absolutely. We really are tailored to whatever parents' preferences are. So we have families who have, and the system is built to accommodate that. So you can set preferences to have only one driver, and we recommend that you rent your rides in advance so that we can try to reserve that person for you. You can have smaller pool of maybe 1 to 3 drivers that rotate if you have a lot of needs, or really, kind of want to maximize the chance of having a driver whenever you need one. And then we have parents, actually more parents than not, the vast majority leave it up to Kango. And that happens sometimes over time. They realize that there's so much vetting that goes into finding these caregivers who happen to be safe drivers with spotless driving records. But so we have the whole spectrum. You can have just one driver, or you can have a pool of preferred drivers, or you can leave it up to Kango. It's up to you.
So you said you're in California and now into Arizona. What is your ultimate goal? Is this going to be countrywide, worldwide? What do you think?
Well, certainly, and I'm actually half Swiss. My experience, and I lived in Belgium and France, as both a child and a young adult, going to business school. So I believe strongly that the need is global. There's some, market variations. So that would be the pie in the sky, so to speak, but certainly, national as a next step, or even more multi-state than we are now. In fact, we have parents downloading the app or calling us or chatting with customer service every day asking, I can't believe, why are you not in Nashville? Why are you not in Atlanta? How can I book a ride? People actually trying to book a ride from across the country. So we know the demand is there.
So
Do you envision franchising this concept?
That's a question that we've gotten. It's a great one. A couple of concerns we have. So we have not, to date, we've had a lot of requests actually to either franchise or license the app. It's a pretty complicated system. The amount of control, though, that we feel is necessary for safety and security reasons is at a level where we haven't worked through, whether frankly there's any setup that we would be comfortable handing off that responsibility, to a franchisee. It's not impossible, but we haven't crossed that bridge at this point.
What's your biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge is frankly meeting demand. It takes quite a bit of work to vet and scale, with the amount of background checking and fingerprinting and, childcare experience required. There's a vast pool of folks who are qualified to do the work. Not all of them have qualifying vehicles. But, I'm happy to report that the largest problem, other than, startup funding initially to get the business off the ground and to some degree to also continue to grow, it's really been meeting demand. So it's an interesting type of business. It's got peak periods when kids are all going to school in the morning and coming home from school in the afternoon. So you have to work around that. One of the reasons why we also carry the younger kids who might get out of preschool at 10 or 12 rather than 3 p.m. So, scaling or meeting demand as quickly as there is demand and still remaining in a stage that we call responsible growth, because this is kids, has really been the largest challenge, but it also is a reflection of the opportunity that's out there.
So Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to work in an incubator and then what it was like to go through the funding process? So you were one of the lucky companies that received investment funding. What was it like to work in an incubator? And then what was it like when you were going through the funding process?
Yeah, and as an entrepreneur, you're never done, right? So the story is not fully written yet. But to 500 Startups was the incubator or accelerator program that was our first investor, outside investor. It was great, I would say, for first-time founders like us. At the time, Dave McClure and still today, Christine Tsai, have been very strong supporters and really got it. But it was demanding. It was round the clock work, which, as a former consultant and startup person, I was used to. But it also was a constant barrage of the tough questions and a good introduction, as well as a lot of investor networking. I think that was perhaps the number one, being an experienced, professional as opposed to a 20-year-old. When I went through the accelerator with my co-founder, I think the biggest part of the value was investment, one-on-one, 101, fundraising 101, introductions to investors, really harsh feedback from the get-go on what was going to be required to raise capital and what the standards were in venture capital in Silicon Valley at the time and what opinions were about the space. That was the most valuable, was introduction to fundraising for a first-time founder for us.
Sarah, I saw that you partnered with Chrysler.
True. That's an interesting partnership. And I believe that there was talk earlier on the show about synergies and resources. They picked Kango for a first and only to this date of its kind partnership where they provided Kango drivers, handpicked select drivers with Kango branded Pacifica hybrid minivans, which are a great match in terms of being great mileage for drivers and also great branding for us. And at the same time, putting the target market, namely parents and kids, in front and inside of those vehicles that had just launched at the time. So that was, and we learned a lot about fleet management from our partners at Chrysler without having to own or purchase the fleet, which was really a win-win, all around. And the kids simply love those vehicles.
So Sarah, can you tell me how you came up with your name? It's kind of like kangaroo, like the baby in the pouch. Is that what you're
my gosh. Naming was really hard. We were looking, because we're a service and a consumer brand, service for kids and families. We wanted an animal mascot because it would be something that was easily recognizable. There's a Kango emblem on the front and back of each vehicle. And there's all drivers wear a Kango t-shirt with a big kangaroo on it. We wanted it to be recognizable even by small kids who couldn't necessarily read, and recognizable at a distance, as vehicles pull up in the pickup line or carpool line at schools. So we wanted an animal mascot. We wanted something that had energy and was dynamic and known for moving around, but also that had a little bit of a softer side. And what better than a kangaroo that actually carries its young. we had a first iteration. It was called Kangadoo to be at the very beginning because we weren't sure what exactly the service was that we were going to land on. It ended up being pretty much transportation as the bread and butter, but that was too difficult. It was too many syllables. People weren't sure how to write it if they heard it, and then if they saw it written, they weren't sure how to pronounce it. So we actually went through a branding boot camp sponsored by one of our investors with Goodby Silverstein, and we came out of a really tough weekend, but delighted with, all right, it's Kango. Plus, you literally can go.
Yeah.
So that's how we
Right.
ended up with Kango.
I just want to compliment you. It's really interesting to hear how your thought processes go and how much thought goes into planning a business, everything from understanding the cycles to when you have to pick people up and the design of the van and the design of the name. And so there's you make it look simple, but it's really not.
So
And-
can you spell the name real quick?
Kango. So like can with a K, go, like going places, in the App Store and at kangoapp.com on the web. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, you're
Thank
listening to
you.
Passage to Profit, the Inventors Show on WOR 710, the Voice of New York. We will be right back. Welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventors Show on WOR 710, the Voice of New York with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. If you are just tuning in, wow, you missed some great content here. So it will be on our podcast tomorrow on iHeart, and it will be on our YouTube channel if you want to see some of the things that we're talking about. And that is Passage to Profit on YouTube. But now I have had the lucky opportunity to interview Lee Torres for my Fireside site. And if you are an entrepreneur and you are selling anything that is a product that you need to ship, you need to talk to Lee because Lee can save you big bucks. So welcome, Lee. Tell us all about your company.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. And thank you guys for the opportunity. It's been really great listening to everybody, a lot of relatable stuff. So it's been a true enjoyment for me. Bellhop Logistics is the company name. I'm the founder and CEO of Bellhop, and we solve a problem that's been going on for decades in the industry, and that's volume. If you're a shipping company or a business or an entrepreneur, everything is based on volume. When you work with carriers like FedEx or UPS, think about someone that might be spending $2, $3, $4, $5 million in shipping a year. They still have a rep, and maybe they get some Dodger tickets thrown at them and whatnot, but everybody's more focused on profit, right, or profitability or the bottom line. So what we offer is a program that has no fees, no volume requirements, and no contracts for any type of shipper. I'm focusing my attention on the small to medium-sized businesses because that's truly the people, especially this year in 2020, that need the help. But our programs are geared to help people increase not only their profitability, but reduce the headaches and monotony that come with being a shipper. So aside from being able to save people money on services like FedEx, USPS, UPS, DHL, we also do freight and even import-export across the ocean. It's a full-service logistics company, but what's more dear and near to our hearts is the service that we offer. It's actually the reason we call the company Bellhop. It kind of says in and of itself who we are and what we do. We want people to know that when they work with Bellhop that they've arrived, that we're going to elevate their service and that we're going to help them kind of go down this path, especially if you're just starting. One of the quotes that I use very often is by the great Maya Angelou, that says, "You may not remember me for what it is that I said or what I did, but you will remember me for how I make you feel." And we're huge on making people feel confident, taken care of, and comfortable, and also having a place that they can come where they're not going to have to go through an 800 number or a call center or have to find somebody that's overseas, someone that's actually in their time zone or in their country rather, that can actually help them kind of see things from 1,000 feet up and help you make that left or right turn when you need to. So we're huge on service. We're huge on savings. I appreciate the opportunity, and that is a little bit about Bellhop.
Wow, that's great. How do you save money for small shippers? I assume that you're buying sort of chunks of shipping at a discount because you buy a large chunk or something. But how do the mechanics of that work? So
Yeah, so it's definitely based on negotiating power, Richard. So we have I've partnered also with some companies that have the clout in the industry. So they're authorized resellers of programs like FedEx and DHL. So these programs, because they already retain so much volume, that means that our customers don't have to have it. So whether you ship one package or you ship 10, they still are able to get that great discount because we already hold the volume with the carrier, so you don't have to.
So that sounds,
So it's like group insurance, basically.
yeah, that's
You
a
know,
good analogy.
You got a whole bunch of people doing the same thing and they pay less because then they're one big chunk, right? So
Exactly.
you actually have on your website a calculator to calculate how much money you can save shipping with you versus just the regular way, right?
That's right. Yeah, you just plug in the carrier and you plug in how many packages you're doing, via ground or express or through USPS. And then it's a free look, really. It kind of gives you, and this is just based off of our averages and the client base that we have that we can kind of benchmark against. So we use that number and then you get a free look. And then we say we don't spam. If you want to send your email to us, we'll get back in touch with you and get in contact with how you can achieve that pretty easily.
After I interviewed Lee, I talked to somebody who's a one-man shop who's doing promotional items who uses Lee. And I said to the guy, I said, and I forget his name, but I said, is that really true? And he's like, yeah, you wouldn't believe how much money this guy has saved me. So there was a testimonial.
I
So
appreciate that. Yeah.
What is the average savings then? I mean, 10%, 20%?
So I would say usually between 9 and 12%. We usually land around the 10% range. So I mean, you could see a company. Well, I'll share a story. So I have a client that we just brought on about 6 to 8 weeks ago. They're a company in Las Vegas. They do apparel. They actually do these great like adult onesies that you can put on. So if you want to look like a giraffe or more power to you.
Kangaroo.
Yeah, a kangaroo. And they were shipping. They were with a program with UPS, and they were shipping about $2.5 million per year. That's just their shipping spend, $2.5 million. And so we came in, we did our analysis, we crunched the numbers, switched them to a program with FedEx, and are now saving them over $18,000 a month. It's almost a $250,000 that we're able to save this company. And that's an injection right back into their bottom line. Now we're also helping them from a service side. We offer them technology integration. We have shipping systems that help them integrate with Amazon, Shopify, Etsy, all that kind of stuff, all for free. And it's a blessing. I've been doing this for over 10 years now. Not the company. The company actually started during the pandemic, but I've been in this industry, and it's just really great when you can help a business owner or a business see the value. I mean, literally, that's money that it's a college fund. It's helping their business grow. They can inject that back into the business and market whatever it is that they choose to do that. But it's now we've kind of now stopped the bleeding and give them an influx in profit that they can enjoy month over month. So it's awesome.
Is there, I think you mentioned that you're also involved, you ship freight. Is there a limit to the volume of freight that you can handle for a client, or are you sort of limited to smaller items?
No, so we do everything from the domestic standpoint, it could be a pallet, it can be a full truckload, and from the international import-export side, it can be a full 20 or 40-foot container. Coming from China, say, or from India, or from South Africa, whatever it might be, we can help with all size, all weights, and yeah, there's really no limitation. What I'm marketing a lot to the small to medium-sized business is more of the small package. So that's like right on my website. It's the landing page, but there's much more service to Misty's point that we can offer, and we can, move it up in the air, by the ocean, by truck, by rail, all modes of transportation.
What's your website, Lee?
bellhopship.com. No, and I appreciate your comments. I think it was really relatable, Jack, that you were saying earlier that service sometimes ends up being your competitive advantage.
Yep.
And that's where we're really big on that. And obviously, if you can save money to an extreme on top of being serviced and being pampered and taken care of, I think it's huge. And I think that going back to Miss D, as far as content, like what you're putting out there, it's not just about, oh, we're saving your money. That's an easy thing but putting that in a frame of mind where a CEO all the way down to the warehouse manager finds value in what you're talking about, I think is important. So content creation is huge, I think, and I agree with you guys.
He's working with Gerhardt Law on getting his trademark through. So we're right now in the midst of negotiating with the trademark office to to get his mark registered. But one of the things that he mentioned that I thought was really interesting is that a lot of people don't want to deal with shipping. I mean, you love shipping, but there are other people who find filling out all the paperwork and everything a little bit tedious, and you take care of all of that. So that's one less thing that a business owner has to worry about, and they can concentrate on other aspects of their business, right? And
Yeah, exactly. I tell my clients, if it's going to take you more than 5 minutes on the phone, put it on us. That's what we're here for. You know, you move on to your next project. You worry about shipping out that next or completing that next project so you can continue to profit. Let me worry about the claim, or let's help you fill out that commercial invoice for that international shipment, whatever it might be. So we're definitely there to not only save people money, but also create time for them too.
Right. And for people that say, well, you know, I just charge the shipping to my customers. Well, don't charge it to me because I'm not going to pay a lot for shipping. Personally, I order stuff online. I did before COVID. And if I go to check out and the shipping cost is too high, I just cancel the order. So if you are still, even if you're making your customers pay for the shipping, they don't want to pay a lot. So this is another good solution for that too.
Yeah, I agree. They say, I think it's something like 70% of people that shop online, they abandon their cart because of what you just said, right? If it's a high shipping cost. So we get a lot of people close to a free shipping model. Amazon and Walmart have kind of messed with the industry and made everybody think that Prime and 2-day shipping is the norm. So it's all about quick, it's all about free, it's all about, and that's tough. That's tough on the business owner. So we're here to help them either profit more or make them more competitive out there in the market, where they can offer a free shipping model as opposed to maybe their competitor.
So Lee, if I sign up with you, then what happens? I just tell you what I need to ship when? Do I send you my customer list? Like, how does it work with you?
Yeah, we have a portal. We have a couple of portals that integrate with your shipping system. So as I mentioned, if you're a Shopify user or an Amazon user, it'll pull the orders from your Amazon into this portal. And then it's basically to eliminate any kind of keystroke errors or you having to do any manual entries. And basically you would go in and you have your pricing loaded in there, which we set up for you. It was custom. We go through the analysis phase prior to everything. And you really go on there and you just click and it prints your label. And so if you're a home-based business, it prints your label on an 8.5 by 11 sheet. If you're in a warehouse or a manufacturer like Jack was talking about, they typically have thermal label printers that you can print a UPS or a FedEx label on. So it really kind of integrates and intertwines with your process. We're all about fitting your model, not you fitting ours. So everything is custom and super easy to use.
How do people, what's the best way to work with you in terms of making sure it makes sense?
So yeah, making dollars and cents is important to us. So typically what we do on the front end is we get data from the client and then we'll do an analysis and we'll actually forecast, right? Because we want to do a quarterly business review every quarter with you and make sure that we're hitting that mark, just so that you can see the value, not only the dollar savings, but the value that we're offering you and what we know and how to benchmark this. So really it's analysis. Next step at that point is, once you see that and you kind of feel comfortable with us, then we can move into, okay, how do we implement this? How do we need to integrate to your system? How can we make this easy on you? Because it isn't a flip of a switch. It's something that can take, sometimes weeks, just to make sure that we're training folks, that we're meeting folks, that we're coming in and we're building a relationship really with you. Because it's not just, we're not interested in a one pop. It's we want a relationship. We want to work with you decades down the line. Yeah.
So we're not only promoting businesses, we're helping consumers and business owners all over the planet, really, by the time we're done with this, right? So you are listening to Passage to Profit, The Inventor Show. If you missed this episode, you're just tuning in. It is on our podcast, our YouTube channel tomorrow, but you really missed a lot if you missed this. So make sure you go back and listen.
We got it all covered tonight.
Yes, we'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. Passage to Profit. I can't believe I'm so excited about shipping this evening, but it's really got us going. And also mobile childcare, and also equestrianism, and media, and also networking. So I think we've we've done it all.
Yeah, so I would just like to run through everybody's websites or how to reach them. So Misty is the owner of Wrigley Media Group. So Wrigley, like Wrigley chewing gum.
Mhm.
So what is your website if people want to find you, Misty?
WrigleyMediaGroup.com.
Hey, that's easy.
That's
Okay.
logical.
And they really help people with content and rising above the noise. And then we had Jack Killian, who has Street Smart Entrepreneurs. So you can find that at street-smartentrepreneurs.com. So
Kind of makes you feel tough, doesn't it? If you're a street smart entrepreneur.
I
Right.
think he's,
You
yeah,
have to be.
I think he's giving you all the little secrets of the street that, you know,
There you go.
you don't get from normal people. He's a fighter.
Not entrepreneur for thugs, right?
And then I talked about Fireside, which is fireside.directory. And that's a small business video website. So I want it to be the Wikipedia of small business online by video. And then we had Sarah Scher with Kango app, KANGOAPP.com. So you can just look up Kango. So it's basically an Uber ride sharing service for kids, but it's not really, it's more like daycare for kids that includes rides. So it's catching, it's like wildfire. She can't build it fast enough. Everybody wants it. We have Lee Torres with bellhopship.com. So the bellhop part is the white glove treatment you get from his shipping company. And the ship.com is that he ships around globally, internationally, nationally for small and medium businesses and get you the discount rates that the big companies get for shipping by pooling all of these companies, small companies together. So he can save you 10 to 12% on your shipping needs if you're a small to medium sized company. And that adds up really fast.
And unfortunately, we have to ship out shortly. But before we go, a few
We want to ask for parting comments,
a
right?
few parting comments. So, Jack, comment away.
Yeah, I think my parting advice to entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs is to do it. Life is short. This isn't practice. And if you have a passion for something, I think you should try it.
Okay, great. And
Yeah.
Misty, final words?
Oh, echoing what Jack said, that you have that passion and don't be afraid. You have to trust in yourself and trust in your good instincts and just remember that passion and go for it.
Excellent. Kenya?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, be a copycat, but I agree with everyone here today. I always live by this infamous quote: you don't happen to make it, you make it happen. So you just have to do it. And I think that everyone here today is a great representation of what it means to create, to collab, and to cultivate. So carry on.
Yeah.
So very inspiring show tonight. And it's been an absolute pleasure having everybody with us. Before we leave, I'd like to thank Noah Fleischman, our incredible producer who takes all of this and makes it sound really good. And also don't forget to like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
Especially, please follow us on YouTube so we can build our YouTube channel up so everybody can see these shows whenever they want and find them easily.
Absolutely. And so don't forget to like us there. And this is Richard and Elizabeth Gerhardt with Passage to Profit on iHeartRadio, coming to you on WOR 710, the voice of New York.